Android versus iOS. The final battle.
And the copyright crackdown is coming. But will it work? Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Adam Turner, and I'm here with the man who's always fully charged, Alex Kidman. Alex, what's been happening in tech?
LG's announced pricing for its budget line, LG G-Pad 10.1. At $399, it presents itself as a budget alternative until you realise that the US list price for the exact same tablet is $250. That's one heck of a whack with the Australia tax stick you've hit us there with, LG.
Facebook is preparing to finally disable messaging in its iPhone and Android apps, forcing those users to install the separate Facebook messaging app. Users of other apps and websites seem safe for now, but in the long term it looks like this migration will extend to other devices.
Telstra's announced that it's going to decommission its 2G mobile network by the end of 2016. It comes as it also announces a raft of 700 MHz network trials across the country. Bad news if you're still stuck on that old Nokia candy bar, although apparently Christmas Island is exempt from the 2G shutoff, so you know where to move to at least.
Microsoft and Intel are going down the Raspberry Pi path, backing the $300 Sharks Cove PC on a board aimed at hobbyists. Designed to run Windows or Android, the board features an Intel Atom processor, onboard storage, a micro SD card slot, a HDMI port, and several other expansion ports. So Alex, the smartphone market is maturing, but the war of words continues. Is it time for a ceasefire here?
Look, I really wish it was. I've got to be honest here. I'm tired of the Android-iOS wars because the Android-iOS wars themselves are tired and increasingly stupid. Really, really quite stupid. I mean, look, I'm holding here an iPhone, I'm holding here an Android phone. I like both of them. I like both of them for different
burn him at
reasons.
the stake. He's a witch. He's a witch.
If I had a third arm, I might even be holding up a Windows phone as well. I think there's actually admirable things across multiple platforms, and all of this kind of fanboyish, oh, but Android's so much freer and more open, oh, but Apple's so much better. It's so increasingly irrelevant because we're talking about products that are actually mature. We're talking about mature markets with mature apps. And yes, there are individual circumstances where you can say, well, okay, the app approach for this particular thing is a little bit better, or maybe the camera there is a little bit better. Maybe you like a bigger screen size, or you don't like a bigger screen size. And that suits an individual. But these ongoing, and especially kind of fan-led arguments, they just leave me exhausted.
Yeah, firstly, you're a heretic. Secondly, I think I agree with you. I'm a bit over it. I think we've got to the point where, at least with iOS and Android, they will do pretty much whatever you want, and it's not a question of one is better than the other. It's a question that they're different, and most people wouldn't have too much trouble migrating from one to the other unless they were reliant on a very specific Apple service or a very specific Android service. It's a little bit different with Windows Mobile. They will tell you, oh, we've got everything we need, but to be honest, there's still stuff missing. I mean, they only just got the Fitbit app, they only just got the Uber app, so you need to go into Windows Phone with your eyes open that there might be some things you're missing out on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I like Windows Phone as a
platform.
So
do I. I've got a
nice
Lumia 930 right now, and I really like it.
And there's again, there are things that are admirable about it, but I agree. In some ways, Windows Phone is the one area where I think, yeah, look, there is still catch-up work to do, and yes, I'm sure that there are some people frothing at the mouth for me daring to put forward that particular piece of heresy. But equally, I think there are some people who would just say, yeah, look, we recognise that, that this is the case, but things are improving, and things are improving there. And I think so much of this ends up just coming down to a lot of personal preference. Again, yes, you can point out little individual things, and that may suit a usage case or not suit a usage case. I tend to steer people on the tablet space towards iPad because I think in tablets they've still got a little bit of a margin, but not much. And there are certainly some things Android does a little better there as well. But in the smartphone space, it's, get yourself a nice big screen phone. Yeah, you buy an Android. If you want a small, powerful phone, that's a market that Android's largely left alone. And frankly, that's where Apple's really shining at the moment.
Yeah. It has got to the point where it's almost like a tribal thing. I hate them and they hate me and we're just going to argue forever. But it's also amazing how they're all such apologists for their own platform. Everything that's a weakness is, oh, you don't need that anyway. If you need that feature, you're an idiot. And I mean, the Apple people pretty much invented that approach.
It's the best free marketing you can get.
Yeah, I got sick of getting that from the Apple people, and the Android people have been a lot more humble about it because they know what it was like to be the underdog, and they've now reached the point where they're almost on par with iPhone.
People.
No, but not all of them. But you're not being treated so much as a second-class citizen if you're on Android. Most services will aim to have their Android app not too far behind their iOS app, if not at the same time. The Windows Phone people are now in the position that the Android people were in a couple of years ago. But it does depend on how you approach it. And one of the things I noticed is that the Android people were a little bit more humble, polite about it. They knew that they were the underdogs, but they knew that they would get there eventually. The Windows Phone people can be a little bit more full-on sometimes and don't realize that they may actually be shooting themselves in the foot by screaming at people, "Where's my app?" and then wondering why they don't get an answer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing that really annoys me about this is that there's this kind of monomaniacal point of view that says, well, actually, everything would be so much better if everything was Android, everything was iOS, even everything was Windows Phone. And actually, the reality is it wouldn't. The one thing that terrifies me in this market is the idea that you'd have one single dominant platform, because frankly, that's a real recipe for a whole lot of stagnation.
Yes, exactly. That's what's made iOS. iOS wouldn't be as good as it is today without Android.
Absolutely.
Android is what pushed iOS to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is good. Competition is a good thing. It forces them to raise the bar. Even if occasionally they steal features from each other, at least they are improving over time. If iOS was the only touchscreen app, we'd have what we had 2 or 3 years ago.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the easiest bit of dog whistle writing to do. I love Android because I've left my iPhone because I jumped from Windows. And, you know, it incites a few page hits and people argue back and forth. But ultimately, it's all this kind of meaningless pseudo-marketing speak that really doesn't actually achieve much. And I mean, that's basically why I'd like a ceasefire in this particular war. But maybe that's just me. So, Adam, there's been a leak, but not this kind of leak. A leak of a government paper, specifically relating to copyright law. What's the story here?
Well, the governor have been saying for a while that they want to review the copyright laws, and it's been pretty clear that they're not actually interested in doing a review that gives everybody a fair go. Their idea of a review is just tightening up the rules to protect Hollywood and not really worrying too much about the rights of Australians. And that's pretty much been confirmed by this leaked draft discussion paper that we've seen, where they talk about what they might do with the new laws. In one sentence in passing, it says, oh yeah, and by the way, it would be nice if the content providers actually gave Australians a fair deal. And then the entire rest of the report is all about how we will punish Australians for doing the wrong thing and how we will try and block them accessing this kind of stuff. So they really seem like they're just doing their best to look after the interests of Hollywood and not the people who actually voted or didn't vote for them to be there.
So is this the 3 strikes kind of stuff that we've discussed before?
Well, yeah, they didn't go too hard on that 3 strikes. They weren't like, we're going to come around and break down your door and cut off your internet. It was a little bit more graduated responses and warnings and stuff like that. I think the frustration that people have is not so much in the draconian nature of what they were planning to do, but the fact that it's so one-sided. It's so very much Hollywood is in the right, we're in the wrong, and there's no room in the middle for them to actually maybe negotiate a better deal for us. Where's the discussion paper about how the Foxtel Game of Thrones deal affected Australians? Where's the discussion paper on geo-blocking and all that kind of stuff? No, we're not interested in that. That's in the too hard basket because we'd have to pick a fight with Rupert Murdoch if we wanted to do that. Instead, we'll go down the easy path, which is just picking a fight with pirates and putting in filters and stuff like that kids can bypass. So it's really not going to achieve anything, but it's going to look like they're doing something, and it really feels like a paper from people who want to look like they're doing something rather than people who actually want to do something. So
it's a whole lot of, noise and fury signifying nothing, but they're also they're flipping a lot of this stuff back onto the ISPs, which of course,
they are dumping a lot of it on the
2012 High Court ruling that iiNet won, talking about
that's the thing they've always wanted to over. Yeah. that was a real blow to them and to the copyright police and the whole thing. They were hoping to beat IINet and then sort of springboard off that to introduce this whole raft of changes. And if you don't put these changes in place, then you will suffer the same fate. That didn't go their way, and ever since they've been trying to figure out how to deal with that. So part of this is to put in new laws, new regulations, which pretty much undo that verdict and do put it all on the ISPs. It's up to the ISPs to block this stuff. It's up to the ISPs to sort it out. It's their responsibility, and it may even be up to them to pay it. And that's one of the things that they've been arguing about for a long time, is to introduce a system like this is not free, and who's going to foot the bill.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we've kind of gone over this before, but it is that difficult position where, frankly, yeah, look, it is a new media landscape. The internet does change all of this stuff, both in terms of the immediacy of content, even just the delivery of that content, because a lot of this stuff dates back 10, 20, 30, even 40 years, where you might have had, 20, 30, 100 prints of a film to distribute worldwide, and they'd go through the States first and then maybe hit the UK, and then maybe Australia would get them way, way, way down the track, and that was a business model they rather liked. That seems to be the business model that they're trying desperately to hold on to, and it's definitely last century thinking.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that the government seems more interested in helping them to hang on to that business model than helping them and us transition into the new way of doing things. And I think that's what frustrates Australians. And Australians, they say, are some of the world's worst pirates. But when you look at the deal that we get from Hollywood, even the deal that we've got from the local broadcasters in the last few decades, you can see why Australians have been driven to go to other alternatives, some of which are less legitimate than others. And to be honest, they will struggle to get people back now, even if they do the right thing, because basically we've been trained to do the wrong thing. We've been treated so badly for so long that we've just become a nation of pirates. And even if they do turn around and offer us a better price tomorrow, a lot of people won't come back. I think that the horse is bolted.
I think I've got to disagree with you there. I don't think we've become a nation of pirates. I think we've become a nation of much better informed people. As soon as people were aware
sick of getting screwed.
Netflix, and again, we've covered this before to a certain extent, Netflix is not the be-all and end-all, but it's a really good example.
No.
As soon as people were aware that Netflix was out there doing a specific set of content for $10 a month, suddenly paying Foxtel $100 a month, yeah, that looks like a horribly expensive proposition. It is a little bit more economically complicated than that, but people are not ignorant of these facts. People shop overseas. People want content from overseas and don't really understand why they can't or shouldn't be allowed to have it. And I mean, within a big business context, a lot of these Hollywood movies will outsource their special effects to teams across the planet, including here in Australia, or at least they used to, because they can do it for the lowest possible cost. If big business can chase stuff at a global level, the whole globalization thing, then why the heck shouldn't consumers do exactly the same thing?
But yeah, I think what you said about Netflix is a good example, tying into what I said, is that we now have quick flicks here, which can almost stand toe-to-toe with Netflix in terms of price and content. But we've been trained for so long that, what you get from America is better, that a lot of people don't give quick flicks a fair go when they might find that it suits their needs, because we've just been treated so badly for so long that we figure, Netflix must be better. If something we have to sneak into is going to be better than anything they would legally give us here.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a problem, and it's not a problem with an easy, evident solution behind it.
No.
But having a one-sided paper like this is just, I'm not surprised in a sense, the Liberal Party being interested in big business. I mean, wow, who saw that coming?
Yeah, who would have thunk it, yeah.
But I know, I'm not surprised to a certain extent, but I think it's a disappointing response from a government that is meant to govern for the entire people, not just the interests of that big business.
No, and there are other things you can tie into this, like the TPP trade agreement and a few other things, where it's clear that every chance they get, they side with big business and they side with foreign governments rather than siding with Australian citizens. And it's very frustrating, and it's sort of, you can understand when people are put in that position where they go, well, you've treated us badly for decades, we don't have to put up with that anymore. Instead of trying to fix the problem, you're now finding ways to force us to put up with it. So it is kind of a backwards thinking, and they're never going to solve this problem unless there is some kind of token effort on the content provider's part to say, yes, we share some of the blame for this. We did help create the situation that we currently have. Now we're trying to fix it. Until they can at least utter that phrase, yes, we are part of the problem, we're not going to have a solution. So that about wraps it up for another episode of Vertical Hold, and I'm off to sit back on the couch and watch another movie on Netflix.
You mean Quick Flicks, right?
Right? Yeah, I mean Quick Flicks.